It is our weekly Kings Roundtable. Hope that everyone is doing well as Sacramento is riding a 5-game winning streak. They hit the road for 3 games, Boston, Chicago, and Milwaukee. Rhino in Sacktown, Jerry Reynolds, as we are happy to have you, and we take your phone calls. We check out your messages, but right now things are rolling, Jerry.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, obviously this team just looks, like we hoped it was going to look at the start of the season. And, the ball movement, obviously getting good defense down the stretch of games. I think that's, right now, you have to say, okay, this is a team that's capable of maybe competing, getting into the top 6, 8 spots. But I know, as you guys have talked about, this road trip coming up will tell you a lot.
Yeah, Jerry, a lot of people are pointing to the offense, but it's really, as you said, been the defense. Over the last 5, they're first in defensive rating percentage, meaning it's a lot of one and done, 77%, and also fourth in defensive rating. Jerry, what do you see there that's making such a big difference?
Well, I think the team, obviously, they're really using, picking up the ball pressure, doubling dribblers a lot more. Obviously, adding Carter as a healthy player. He's an excellent defender. And of course, Keon Ellis is terrific. And when you got Keegan out there as well, you got 3 guys who can really guard. And now De'Aaron Fox is capable too. So Monk and probably Sabonis and Lyles would be below average defenders, but the rest are and that's kind of simple as that. I think just Coach Christie using Keon Ellis a lot because, he makes the team better offensively and defensively.
I want to see this game on Friday. To me, this is the first real measuring stick game under Doug Christie. No disrespect to the Kings' 5-game winning streak, but they've gotten every single break in the world with players not playing. And we're talking about the best players on the other team. And they had to make a hell of a comeback. They were down 9 with 3.5 left at home against Philadelphia and won that game on a 15-0 run. They were down 17 the other night in the 4th to Miami. Played great in the final 10 minutes to come back and win that game. So now you're going against the Boston team in their house. They're healthy from what I'm looking at in the injury report. They just beat Denver last night. They haven't been as good this year, but they're still the Boston Celtics, and they are a very formidable test. I'm looking at this as a real measuring stick game.
Oh, totally agree. It's one of those things to where really, if you get down to Boston 12, 14 points going into the fourth quarter, going to be tough to make up.
Yeah.
And the second thing I think will be interesting because this league scouts, and the Kings have done some really good things, different defensive things that have worked very well. Well, teams are going to be more prepared for some of the traps and the hard pressure. And now it doesn't mean they can have any more success, but they're going to be more prepared. I think the Kings were able to really catch team by surprise a little bit. So that'll be interesting to me. And then, of course, playing Boston, I think the thing is so tough with Porzingis available. They have 3 guys you almost need to double. And it's hard to double 3 guys. And so that'll be interesting. So you're going to have to be able to play a couple of those guys straight up. And that's a tough matchup. Any Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis are really a difficult matchup for anybody.
Boston shoots more threes than anybody in the league, 50 a game to be exact, Jerry. Is that the route to victory for the Kings? Do they need to hope the 3 balls don't fall?
Yeah, they got to defend them better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They're going to shoot them. And obviously they've proven to be good at it. They won a championship shooting a lot of them. So that is their strategy. And of course, obviously their bigs, both Porzingis and Al Horford, really shoot the ball out there. So yeah, they'll have to defend the 3 very well, and like I say, just in some cases, you just hope they miss, which they have. They've had games where they didn't shoot them well. I think conversely, I think the Kings, they've got to shoot the 3 ball well. They don't have to shoot that many because I still think their mid-range game and going inside can be very productive for them.
All right. Well, when you look at De'Aaron Fox, if he's able to play, what to me is going to be interesting is the minutes now with Keon playing so well, and Monk obviously is going to play his minutes. And then you talked about Devin Carter. I mean, you can't play everyone, Jerry. As you said, it's not Little League Baseball. Not everybody gets to play 3 innings. It's going to be very interesting to see how the minutes are divvied up when Fox is back, which looks like it could very well be for Boston.
Yeah, I do think Coach Christie has really done a great job of really keeping his best players on the floor, and which is the key. And I think we saw where Carter played pretty significant minutes, but more importantly in the overtime, a good player like Kevin Herter didn't play, so that was a really coaching decision that worked out. So he kept Keon Ellis on the floor. So I think that's one of the things that's impressed me with the bench is certainly better, but it's how it's used is so much better. I think certainly the players you can see feel more comfortable in their roles with Coach Christie than they did with Mike Brown. It's pretty clear to me anyway.
And how does that happen, Jerry? What is it about that? I mean, we're talking about a coach that won 48 and 46 games respectively in the last 2 years, okay? With pretty much the same team with DeMar DeRozan. So, I mean, that's a different. Why do you think that happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the only thing I can go to is sometimes as a coach, you get stuck in your own, my way or the highway kind of thing. Well, of course, this team wasn't quite the same team. I mean, DeMar DeRozan's a different kind of player, requires a different way to play. And then conversely, I think for some reason, I still say the Keon Ellis thing was such a mystery of why a guy that's so productive on offense and defense just simply wasn't getting consistent minutes. And so it's one of those things to where unless you knew exactly what Coach Brown was thinking, it's like, did he have a longer big plan in works? But I thought this year, even out of the gate, just things you didn't see the same ball movement, you didn't see the same pace pushed like we'd seen in the past and like we're seeing now. And I think that's one thing Coach Christie has done is really encourage you guys to get out and push the ball after made baskets again. And so, yeah, I guess my answer to be with Coach Brown is like sometimes you forget why you were good.
Yeah, Keon Ellis, second on the team in net rating, only to Domantas Sabonis, 0.1 behind him at 3.8. And if there's a guy that can appreciate a player like Keon Ellis and what he brings and how he changes the game, it's Doug Christie, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, they're almost mirror images of one another about they don't ever take a play off, right? And so they can relate to each other very well. I don't know if Keon had to go back and look at video of Doug. Yeah, obviously he's not old enough to remember Doug playing, but I mean, yeah, they're pretty much carbon copies of one another, aren't they?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they're very similar with the exception of Doug was a much better playmaker. But I think defensively and in their offensive game, there's a lot of similarities, but like I say, I thought, that's kind of what made the Kings back in those days so good was that Mike Bibby could be more of a scorer off the ball. And Doug really was more of a playmaker. So, yeah, a lot of the same qualities, no question.
Yeah.
Jerry, does it feel like Keon's playing a little bit bigger this year than he was last year?
It does. I think his body looks a little bigger, and I mean, he certainly has no trouble switching out on bigger wings and things like that. He'll fight them.
Right.
He's got he's the real deal defensively. I think. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any slippage there. It's just he's just one of those guys that the more he plays, the better he's going to play. I've always said that's where a lot of times when reserves, I mean, it's hard to gauge them when they're playing 4 or 5 minutes here and then 4 or 5 minutes there.
Yeah,
but a guy like Keon he's in there till the morning comes, and so the more he plays,
right.
the more he plays, the kind of better he gets.
Yeah. Hey, I want to tell you that we are brought to you in part by New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. Call the number on your screen, sackserviceplumbing.com, or I like newworksplumbing.com, NEWWRXplumbing.com. Available 24/7 for your plumbing needs and repairs. Remember, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. And don't forget about Bennett's this weekend for their outstanding brunch on Saturday and Sunday, whether it's Sacramento, Roseville, or the West Side Grill in Rockland. Prime seafood and steaks at Bennett's. You go to bennettsrestaurants.com, make a reservation and more. That's bennettsrestaurants.com. And don't forget about their daily happy hours, 2 to 6, their sips and tastes. It's all there for you at Bennett's, bennettsrestaurants.com. Where are we going next, guys? What do you think about the Warriors? Look like they have just completely collapsed, haven't they?
Yeah, they're going through a lot of the same things we saw the Kings go through a few weeks ago. You know, I mean, they've really kind of fallen off, and I don't know with what they're going to do. Obviously, I would think they're looking to make some moves to kind of reinvigorate their team. They're certainly not going to change coaches, but I think the Kuminga situation. He's an asset. He's somebody they can get somebody good for. So. And I think that's what they have to do. If they don't kind of get a good trade that kind of changes the team right now, I think they're heading right backwards.
It's kind of bizarre to me because they put so much into Kuminga. He was going to be that next guy in line, and now possibly he's on the move. You talked about the injuries. Pajemski has been out as well.
Yeah.
I just think they are a prime candidate to go swoop up one of those guys, one of the bigger ticket guys that could be available at the deadline.
I agree with you, Rhino, because I think it really comes down to Steph Curry. I mean, the ownership knows that they got a short window here, and they can't let this year slip away. And so I think they'll be in the market to make what I would say is maybe a risky move, and not maybe the long term, not the smartest, because Kuminga, Kuminga's involved with the deal to get Jimmy Butler. Well, it makes the Warriors better. There's no doubt about it, but it's probably short term, and Kuminga in a different circumstance may turn out to be that star that that some people think he can be. And, he certainly has star talent.
The other team that's a disaster are the Phoenix Suns. They're 16-19. They've lost 8 of 10, and they look lost.
Well, they do, don't they? And, I think they finally got it right by trying to put Bradley Beal as a reserve coming off the bench. That's really where he'd be best. And certainly with Tyus Jones and Booker, that should be a really good guard line. But they're just running in mud right now. And I mean, Beal's not very happy. And, it's one of those things I keep hearing ESPN, different people saying, well, they could get Jimmy Butler, trade Bradley Beal. Well, there's one little flaw with that. Miami don't want him.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make any difference whether he's got a no trade clause. Well, who cares? I mean, I don't know of anybody trying to get Bradley. Bradley can play, but he's a $15 million player that you're paying $50 for.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I'd be very skeptical about getting Jimmy Butler, to be honest with you. He's 35. It seems like wherever he goes, there's a problem. He's the Billy Martin of basketball. It seems like he's okay for a period of time, and then it just falls apart, whether it was Minnesota, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's Miami. It's just, I don't know. That would be very risky, Jerry.
Oh, I agree totally with that, because, I mean, you forgot even his first place, Chicago. So he's one of those guys. If I'm Phoenix, where I am right now in Phoenix, I'd still do it if you could do it, because he's going to make you better for the rest of the year. But now I don't know what you'd think after that. But if he comes in there and you could move Bradley Beal for him and something else, Phoenix is going to be better. Same way with the Warriors. They're going to be better short term. But if it's about this time next year, if he's there, who knows?
Yeah, I'm with.
And like you said,
yes, sir.
He's going to want a big thing. He's wanting, the reason his problem in Miami, they don't want to give him an extension. And if I'm Pat Riley, why would you do that? And so that will still rear its ugly face sometime this summer, wherever he is.
Yeah, it feels like that should be probably the Golden State move, though. I don't know that Phoenix gets a ton better with Jimmy Butler, and it just feels like Phoenix has never been right ever since acquiring Kevin Durant. It's just never really worked, guys.
No, and Kevin, as good as he is, and he's still great or near great, but he's not quite as good as he was either.
No.
He can't impact. He impacts the game on the offensive end, but he used to get impacted defensively.
And he gets hurt too much.
And exactly, and you just don't know. He's going to miss games, and so there you are. I don't know. I wish, the big three certainly, but that's something we talked about when the Beal thing happened. I said that can't work. It's just not going to work. You can call him a big three. Yeah, well, if you'd got Bradley Beal 5 years ago, you'd have really had something.
Yeah, you know what they just need to do? Tell them they're not playing for a championship. Tell them they're playing for medals. He'll be right back at it.
Yeah, there you go. That's very well said. Hey, don't forget that coming up on the post-game show for the Kings and the Celtics, I'll have a rant with Grant brought to you by EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined. And if you go to edhmotors.com, you'll get all the information that you need. David and Adam, just two guys trying to do something different and better. Great new concept. And you'll take delivery at the Auto Lounge at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. If you go to the website, edhmotors.com, you can check out everything that they have. And here's the real key. If you don't see what you're looking for, no problem. They'll get it for you. They're decades of experience in the automotive industry. They'll get it for you. They're awesome. Go to edhmotors.com. That's edhmotors.com. And don't forget about my rant with Grant coming up on the postgame show for the Kings and the Celtics.
Looking forward to that. Plenty of those to go around. So give us some good ideas. We'll have some as well. Jerry, you have any rant ideas?
I don't. I'll put some thought into it though, because I like my man Grant ranting, man. I mean, he can fill it up.
Yes, we'll think. We got a couple days. We can think about that. The Spurs, who are right now ahead of Sacramento in the standings, but they could be even in the loss column after they play the Milwaukee Bucks. So keep that in mind. You got the Spurs at the Bucks tonight. The Clippers are at the Nuggets. Kawhi has left the team due to those horrible fires and a family matter and evacuations down in Southern California. And we are really thinking about everyone down there. I got to tell you, we've gone through it in Northern California, the Camp Fire, which was so devastating. And I had a chance to get to know somebody very well whose life was turned upside down from that fire and barely escaped. But boy, when you look at the video down there, your hearts have to go out for those people.
Just awful. Me and my wife were just watching a lot of the coverage, and it just seems so hopeless. I don't know if they can, if they can't get the water tankers up in the air, because of the wind. And if the wind had let up a little bit, they might get on top of it.
Awful.
Wow. It's just, Paul Westphal lived in the late great Paul Westphal lived in Pacific Palisades. Yes. I know his wife does, so I'm sure that was clearly an area that was just devastated.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I wasn't going to do this right now, but I will. But his wife, Cindy, just put out a post on social media because the street that they lived on years ago has been impacted. But Jerry, I don't know if you've seen this book. And I'm sorry, it's kind of with the green screen, but it's A Tale of Two Seasons. It's Paul Westphal's book. And Cindy sent me this book, and I read it. And there are a lot of great stories in this book. And Jerry, you being, first of all, someone that was close to Paul and followed his career and all of your basketball stories, when I was reading this book, it kind of reminded me of you with all the stories that you have, because the stories are all unique. And they're so interesting. And there's also a very interesting couple of pages on DeMarcus Cousins in here. And some of the behind the scenes stuff that was going on when Paul was coaching the Kings and DeMarcus was, I hate to say it, at his very worst of his career during that time. And he shares some of the details that went on with Jeff Petrie and DeMarcus when Paul was coaching the team. and I found it to be very interesting. But this book is called The Tale of Two Seasons, One Man's Basketball Journey and His Love for the Game. Paul was somebody that would always write a diary and jot down all of his memories on paper every night. And before he passed, before he was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2020 and subsequently passed in January of 2021, he was working on this book. And Cindy, along with Paul's daughter, finished the book. Okay. And they were able to get it published. And I'm so happy that she sent me this book. And I highly recommend it. It's just got a lot of great stories in it. And Jerry, I know you would love it. It's called The Tale of Two Seasons. I highly recommend you go and buy it because you would really enjoy it.
No, I will. I mean, Paul, the best.
Yeah.
The best guy to deal with. And
if you didn't like
and
Paul, you had a problem.
Exactly. And I always say too. I mean, this is a guy was one of the top 10 players in the world.
Yes.
For several
Right.
years. I mean, just no ego at all, and obviously had a great success as a player, and really more or less great success as a coach, other until his last stint, with DeMarcus and the Kings, and so anyway, yeah, just a wonderful man, wonderful man.
The worst thing I've ever seen in all my years of sitting courtside was when the Kings were in China in 2014 playing the Brooklyn Nets, and Lionel Hollins was the head coach of Brooklyn back then, but he got very sick, and Paul was the assistant head coach, and Paul took over the coaching duties for the games in Shanghai and Beijing, and the first game was in Shanghai, and I'm announcing the game with Gary Gerald, and I can't really hear what's going on, but I can see it. DeMarcus got ejected in that game, and Michael Malone was so pissed that he didn't even play DeMarcus in the game in Beijing. Well, anyway, the next night we're in Beijing at the NBA's red carpet dinner with the Nets and the Kings, and David Stern's there. And anyway, Paul's there with Cindy, and I'm standing there with Star, and Paul comes up to me and he goes, "Did you see what happened last night?" And I go, I kind of did, but I couldn't tell because I was announcing the game. And Paul Westphal said to me, and Paul never cursed. Paul very rarely sweared. Yeah. And he said, in all my years of being in basketball, he said, I have never been so disrespected in my life. DeMarcus was running up the court and Paul was coaching the team standing up. And DeMarcus yelled, "Shut the F up and sit the F down. You have no idea what you're doing." Then later in the game, during free throws in front of the Brooklyn bench, DeMarcus was not shooting free throws, but he was on the lane. And Paul was barking out instructions to his team. And DeMarcus turned around and said, "Don't listen to him. He has no idea what the F is doing. Shut the F up and sit down." That DeMarcus did that twice in that game. And then he later got ejected. And Michael Malone was disgusted. But when Paul came up and shared that story that night at the dinner, I was just like, at first I was like, wow. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not surprised. But how awful is that? That's one of the worst things I've ever heard.
Well, I can say I learned the hard way just watching practice. And I've got so I quit going to practice because I didn't just the amount of disrespect and just about every day. But I mean, one of the assistant coaches, I always remember Bobby Jackson.
Oh boy,
was going to take him on.
Yeah,
Bobby was assistant then, and the disrespect that he was showing the guys, and with Bobby to lose it like that. But I mean, Bobby is going to climb the mountain.
Oh boy, oh boy, yeah. But anyway, you mentioned Paul Westphal, but the book is A Tale of Two Seasons, and again, I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. And yeah, I knew Paul, and I was close to Paul, and but the stories of being around Red Auerbach, and do you know when? Just to give you an idea, do you know that when Paul was drafted by the Boston Celtics? Now think about this. He didn't even find out that he had been drafted for the Celtics for 2 days. Okay, no, I'm serious. Think about that for a minute. And then he talks about finally getting to Boston and Red taking him on a tour of the Boston Garden and sharing with him all of the things about the garden. And Paul, being a West Coast guy, was just like enthralled by that. And, Jerry, he was really a hell of a player for Boston, but that trade to Phoenix was probably the best thing that ever happened to him in his career.
Yeah, and it was a great trade for both teams. One of those things that Phoenix better, and of course Paul got to advance his game, but they got Dennis Johnson,
Yes.
who obviously was the Cedric Tony the guy guard Tony, so the Celtics could get through Philly and win championships. So it's one of those things that, that's usually what it is. If you want a special player, you're going to have to give up a special player. But it worked for both teams, and that was pretty amazing stuff. But Paul just a great player.
Yep, Paul Westphal. We lost him way too soon at the age of 69 in January of 2021. All right, let's navigate our way back to the Kings at Boston, at Chicago, at Milwaukee. I mean, if there's any way they could figure out a way to go 2-1 on this trip, that would be absolutely amazing. Milwaukee is still Milwaukee. When you still got the Greek Freak, all right, and you have, even though they played them very, very well in 2 games last year, but this Boston game I'm still looking at on Friday night as a real barometer. I think we'll get a really good idea of where the Kings are. And I'm not in any way minimizing their 5-game win streak, but I would be naive and remiss not to say they got every break in the world with who they were playing, okay, and their roster. So let's just call it the way it is. This game coming up on Friday, there will be no excuses. There will be no, this to me is going to show me where the Kings are.
Well, there's no question. I mean, the defending champs, and it appears right now that the Kings will catch them fully healthy with all the top guys. Now, certainly that could change between now and Friday, but so they're going to be facing, defending champs, one of the 3 best teams in the league for sure.
Yes. 27-10.
And so, we'll definitely learn a lot, and really, and I think I'm as interested as anything, as Rhino pointed out earlier, just how they defend the 3 ball, and then plus the other problem I think the Kings will have is if Tatum and Brown are so good at breaking down defenses that if the wings can't cover them, Sabonis is going to really be in a world of hurt in there. He's drawing fouls and stuff, so it'll really be key not just to defend the 3 but keep them out there.
Yeah, I was gonna give Joseph some love in the chat because he was going the same way that I was. Sabonis is gonna need to have a game ×2 defensively that he had against Bam Adebayo in Boston. It's going to be necessary. And Doug Christie has this team, has the city of Sacramento ready to run through a wall. So we need to see if the X's and O's can catch up with that. So we've got one part down, and they didn't adjust very well to that zone defense, Jerry, in the second half. They broke it because they made some shots. So it's going to be that big test. You've got Joe Mazzulla, one of the best basketball minds right now in the NBA.
Yeah, and I do think it's good you point that out. I forgot, but the Kings really did not do a good job attacking the zone at all. And I think that Miami has a good one. Kind of my feeling is I hope with Coach Christie gets time and maybe could put in a little better version of a zone himself. I mean, they've played it, but they really haven't played it to the level that we see a good zone like Miami. And then, of course, that would help maybe playing against the zone. Because really the Kings really didn't seemed like a good idea how they wanted to attack it.
Hey, I want to tell you about Sunrise Landing, the newest residential community in Colusa. You go to ColusaSunrise.com. You'll get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing from Blazona Development. 6 models to choose from. And remember, folks, no Mellorews, no homeowners, and good location adjacent to the Colusa Golf and Country Club. Maybe you can get Jerry Reynolds to caddy for you. He used to do that back in the day. And access to I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. That's right, Sunrise Landing. It's all there for you. Go to ColusaSunrise.com. That's ColusaSunrise.com. Jerry, you did that for a long time, didn't you? Not a long time, but you caddied quite a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I started when I was 12 years old and really caddied till I was 16. And then I actually worked on the golf course. Basically did stuff, and always remember working with Larry Bird's granddad. And
oh wow,
yeah, Claude Bird, and he taught me how not to smoke. I always remember that because he was one of those guys that rolled his own cigarettes. And at noon I'd be hanging around and he'd be smoking. I'd watch him roll his cigarettes and smoke them, and I said, "Well, let me try one of those." He said, "Well, son," I said, "I'll give you one, but on one condition." He said, "You smoke the whole thing." And And so he rolled it, and I smoked it. And
How about that?
in the afternoon, I took my mower that I'm supposed to mow bunkers with, and I rolled it into the woods and laid down there for about 3 hours. And it really didn't feel like smoking after that. So Claude Bird did me a good.
Hey, Ryan, French Lick's got one of the top golf courses anywhere. They got a beautiful, beautiful golf course there. They've had many, many tournaments there, right, Jerry?
They got two championship courses, Donald Ross and Pete Dye.
Yeah.
Two championship courses, absolutely. Two of the all-time golf architects, and they're right there. So yeah, I caddied on the Donald Ross course at the time, and so anyway, yeah, that was actually pretty good times. I mean, you make a couple of bucks a day and you're rich.
Yeah. Did you have to wear the jumpsuit or anything as a caddy?
No, no, we were
Jerry in a jumpsuit.
Yeah, we were too. You couldn't have got many of the hillbillies in one of those things.
Overalls instead.
Absolutely.
Oh, we had some guys in overalls. That's for sure. A few of those.
I caddied for a while too at a country club not too far from where I lived, and I got to tell you, when you were asked to carry the double bags, that was not an easy chore. That was that.
No.
I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be long for this, man. I was like, I don't think so.
Well, especially you're carrying double, and I did that when I got older, and then you get two guys that are in the rough on the right and in the rough on the left. About ready to take a club and hit this. So like, let me just walk down the middle and you guys come get a club.
Oh my gosh. So don't forget Friday pregame show with Rhino. Of course, you got the Kings Court at 1:00. Jerry at halftime. We'll have the postgame show. Looking forward to that as the Kings open up the road trip in Boston, then Chicago, and then Milwaukee. Tomorrow, you got at the 1:00 Kings Court, right, Rhino?
Absolutely.
And I will do a show tomorrow at 8:00. All right, I'll do a show at 8:00 Pacific in the evening, so I'll look forward to doing that.
Very cool. Nighttime Napes. I love it.
Yeah, we're going to do a little nighttime show.
He gets more energetic at night.
Thank you.
I think Nate just gets wound up. Just gets going.
And it keeps me out of trouble, Jerry. Because I like to hit the town and all of that. So if I'm doing a show at night, it keeps me in. You know what I'm saying, Jerry?
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. At your age, you don't need to be out there rambling.
No, you are right about that. At my age, you are exactly right. Oh, and don't forget about the teams or the merch store. Ryan's got one of the shirts on, but you can go to my website if you don't like that.com or grantnapier.com, and you can check out the latest merch available and order that, and you'll be good to go for 2025.
Yes, indeed.
Final thoughts, guys?
Well, Kings are unbeaten in 2025. Let's just keep going.
I didn't think about that.
Well played. Well played, Mr. Reynolds. Yeah, looking forward to Friday. Very much so. Yeah.
All right, looking forward to it as well. To everyone else, thank you very much. Don't forget tomorrow again, 1:00 to Kings Court, and then I'll be with you at 8:00. Until then, so long, everybody, and thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye now.